They play for an hour straight, or do you have an hour break? Or do you have 30 minutes break, 30 minutes?
So the idea is to compress the show, and if you add a break, that's going to add, getting people to come back after the break, as you know, sometimes can be challenging. So you want to take a 15-minute break, and it turns into 25, 30 minutes sometimes. So no, a 10-10 is 10 songs in a row. And if they want an encore, the artist can certainly play another song or two.
And you can have a larger show, though.
So typical house concerts, especially on weekends, tend to be 2 sets. It'll be 2 40-minute sets usually. Some artists will stretch it a little bit longer, but I encourage especially the second set to be shorter, so that again you have the opportunity to leave the audience wanting more. And if half the crowd wants the encore and the other half is like, I need to get out of here, it's late, it's a different type of atmosphere. So I like a second set to be shorter for that reason. So the encore tends to be a little more sincere that way. But every artist is different, and that's something that you work out with the artist. And some will say, you know what, I don't like doing 2 sets. I like to just play 75 minutes. You'll see that oftentimes when you go to Ruth Eckerd Hall. They'll do like an evening with show, and that usually means no break. It means they're going to play straight through for 75 minutes.
You mentioned that you accept donations.
Yes.
Why is that?
Okay, so I'm really glad you brought that up. So a house concert, for legal reasons, has to be private, has to be by invitation only, and has to be, all the money has to go to the artist, and it has to be a suggested donation rather than a ticket charge. And the core that runs through a lot of that is it can't be a commercial activity on the part of the host. And if you are selling tickets or charging a flat fee, you are sending a very strong signal that this is a commercial event. Whereas if it's a suggested donation, you are now more in the role of providing a space. And everybody puts the money in the jar, and the musician takes the jar. You provided a space. The musician is the one having his commercial activity, and he's responsible for his taxes and all that kind of stuff. If you start handling the money, if you take checks on behalf of the artist, if you try to collect money in advance, we've seen a lot of hosts do that because they get frustrated with people who don't show up. And they say, all right, you need to pay in advance to reserve your ticket. Well, all these things, I think, connect the host to the money in a way that jeopardizes a handful of things. Number 1, zoning. Again, having a commercial activity in your home. Number 2, liability. If you are handling the money, and if you were to have a slip and fall in your home, and your insurance company, if they understand that this was a commercial activity on your part, will have a very easy way to deny the claim and say, no, you're on your own. We cover you for private parties, right, in your home. That's what your homeowner's insurance will cover you for, and that's how you have to treat your house concerts. It's a private party. And so the less connected you are with the money, the better. And there's really not any case law on this, right? I come from a standpoint of overseeing or being connected to thousands of events each year, so I have to advocate for the safest practices. I'm not the house concert police, and there's plenty of people who don't follow my advice. And I'm not speaking from a law book of established case law, but been around long enough to see what can happen, and so I want to give you the best advice I can to be safe, to enjoy your events, to not kill yourselves doing it. It should be fun. And the private thing brings up another issue, which really only becomes a factor if you do a lot of house concerts or if you start getting big. But a house concert, by being private, we mean everybody should be connected. Everybody should be on your mailing list. Everybody is a friend or a friend of a friend or a friend of the artist. And there are many, many people that I've seen that are very comfortable having total strangers walk into their house. And If you're like that, that's okay for you, but I will not advocate for that. And I've heard some stories of things that can happen when you treat your house like a barn or a public event, public space. But there's another issue there, and that is the most common thing that happens from a host trying to be large too soon. Like again, you don't have to be big to do something worthwhile. But as you do this, and if your friends really, really love it, it is possible that your audience will grow. And what we've often seen, though, is hosts who want to be big, and they start doing unsafe things to build their audience. They put posters around town. They get their house concerts announced on the radio. They encourage the artist to list the house concert on their website. Now, and this is one that a lot of artists and a lot of hosts, they don't like when I bring this up. But if an artist is putting your email address on their website saying, hey, if you want to come to this show, email the host. Host gets an email and says, yeah, we'd love to have you. Come on down. Here's the address. Or even worse, the address is on the poster or something. People don't even have to RSVP to show up. That's making it a public event. And what we recommend for artists, on your website, you say, house concert, Tampa, Florida, email me if you would like an invitation. And then the artist can vet that fan. And they can email Christy or Cynthia and say, listen, I have some friends in the area. I know this person. He's come to a handful of my shows. He's a friend. And can he come? And then, of course, he's a friend of yours, friend of mine. Happy to invite him. But what you don't want is every drunk person that ever signed up on an artist's email list to get invited to your house. Because they don't just play sweet house concerts. They play bars, and they play where they have to play to make a living. And so again, we want everybody in your home to be a friend, a neighbor, a friend of a friend, connected to the artist in more than just a mailing list sort of way. But the opportunity you have is everybody who does come to your house can now be added to your mailing list. And you can invite them directly. So by invitation only, private, suggested donation. And I like a range for the suggested donation. If you're saying suggested donation is $20, and everybody comes in and has to pay, it's not a suggested donation. That's a $20 charge to get into my house concert, right? So I advocate for a range so that people, number one, have a choice. And I'll take it further. This is something that Jeff Robertson came up with. Because we have a lot of hosts who don't have a good system for encouraging everybody to donate at the door. All right. So number one, you have a big jar. Number two, you have a big sign on the big jar that says suggested donation, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 10 to 15, whatever it is. And you have a greeter, and you have your guest list all right there near the door. And because as a host, you're going to be busy, you're going to get into conversations, it's good to recruit a volunteer. Have somebody saying, hi, welcome to the show, cross your name off on the list, here's the suggested donation, 15 to 20, be generous if you can, and then you turn your back. You let them give what they're going to give. But you've created this barrier, this social barrier, where they can't just walk by you and get distracted and forget. And they can't get halfway through the show and say, because they haven't grown up with this culture, they haven't been socialized into how much we care about artists. So halfway through the show, they go, oh yeah, we forgot the suggested donation. We'll just buy a CD. And that's not the same thing. That's not honoring what's going on. And what happens is you can literally train people to do it the wrong way. And I've seen this at many house concerts where the host consistently is trying to make up the difference because there were 40 people there and only 20 people paid. And people are willing to be generous, but they are also very prone to forget. And even if you make an announcement halfway through or before, it's really good if you get them at the door. Here's a suggested donation, 15 to 20, be generous if you can, and turn your back. Don't stare them down until you see the right amount of money.